Hey class, Professor Fernandez here, introducing you to Module 7. This module is going to be a little bit different than the prior modules because we're going to focus on the actual Civil War using the textbook and lectures only. There are no PDF documents. This module also does not have any reading quizzes or an analysis for a primary source or secondary source analysis. So in some ways, it should be a little bit of a break from the work in prior modules, but in other ways, it's going to be a little bit more intense. And let me explain this here. I pulled up the module. This looks a little bit different than yours because this is my screen, but this is the video introduction, which I'm doing right now. But if you see right here, the sources or the reading, there are no quizzes, but you are required, just like any other week, you do have readings, but it's going to be the entirety of chapter 12. Chapter 12 in the blue book, in Thinking Through the Past. You are responsible for the entire chapter, chapter 12. Now, once again, there are no reading quizzes or analysis assignments for this module, but you are responsible for the entirety of the chapter because you will need to read the entire chapter. I stress that again. I know some of you may not hear this, but you need to read the entire chapter because your Flipgrid post, your weekly discussion post, will ask you to incorporate, and I'm pulling it up as we speak, three primary sources from chapter 12, three primary sources from chapter 12, and one secondary source. And hopefully you all have realized, understand what a secondary source is versus a primary source. And actually in the book under chapter 12, it actually has a heading. It'll say secondary source and primary sources. So you need to read the entire book, not the book, excuse me, the entire chapter 12. The Flipgrid post this week, and I'll go over it with you right now, just so we can be on the same page. This module is going to focus entirely on the actual Civil War, from the very beginning to the surrender at Appomattox Courthouse in 1865, which we'll cover in this module. In this video analysis post, you're going to be asked to do several things. First of all, I want you to explain and analyze was the Civil War's outcome, meaning the North, the Union winning, inevitable? Why or why not? I know it's kind of broad, but you're going to be the historian. So this week, as you're reading chapter 12 or this module, chapter 12, I want you to be picking up on things that are going to help you prove your analysis, your interpretation, your explanation of why or why not was the winning of the war by the North, the Union, inevitable. So you're going to need to cite three primary sources. Name the source, give me a quote from the source, and tell me why this source and this quote support your analysis, your interpretation, your explanation, right? So you need to give me three separate ones, three different primary sources. In addition, you need to incorporate one secondary source, a secondary source. And if you don't remember, a secondary source is an article or a paper written by a historian talking about the time period, usually using primary sources in their secondary source. And I'm going to give you a little hint. The secondary sources in the book start on page 287. It actually says secondary sources. One of the secondary sources is Blue Over Gray by Fredrickson. Another secondary source is Why the North Won. Oops. Why the North Won by McPherson. So these are two historians and their interpretation. Those are secondary sources. So you need to pull one specific secondary source, quote, why that quote supports your interpretation, your explanation, your analysis. And then just like prior posts, you need to reply and comment to a fellow student. And remember, when you reply or comment to the fellow student, you need to incorporate what did your fellow student, what source did they use? What quote did they use from that source, and why you agree or disagree on their analysis. So the post is a little bit more, I don't want to say difficult, but you need to read the chapter, so you have all this information, these primary sources, these secondary sources to use in your post. That's pretty much the extent of this module. So you have to, of course, be responsible and read the chapter, but don't wait till the last minute to read it and then try to do this post, because it's going to be very difficult, you trying to do everything if you haven't read the chapter. All right, the directions are in the Flipgrid posts section of the module. If you have any confusion, look through that, and you can always email me and we can meet up in my Zoom office at a scheduled time. But this should be fairly straightforward. Reading the chapter 12, viewing the lectures, you're responsible for the lectures, and then doing your post. Normal times, your initial post is due by 11:59 on Wednesday, and then a reply to a fellow student by 11:59 p.m. on Thursday. Regarding that last module, Module 8, your final project is going to be a Flipgrid post, and I've been going back and forth. I know the Corona and COVID has kind of limited what I used to allow students to do, which was go outside and go to a historical site. I'm working out a deal with the library to get the link to a Civil War movie that I really enjoy, that I think I'm just going to use as your final project. So I'm going to get a link to the Civil War movie. It's a good movie that I think I'm going to use as your final project, that you'll watch the movie, and then I'll have some questions regarding the movie that you would answer in Flipgrid. So that's for next week, or for the last module, Module 8. So I think the intensity of the prior modules is not really there, in the sense of you having to do quizzes and analysis papers, but you still need to read, and you still need to do the post. All right. Have a great day, a great week, a great module, and I will see you and talk to you for Module 8 with more specifics on what movie you're going to eventually look at or watch, and what type of post I'm looking for from that movie for your final project. Talk to you later.